Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Julia Mann, and I show men and women how they can lead healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And I'm really delighted because today I'm joined by Jen Spainhour. Hi, Jen.
Hi there. Thanks, Julie. So happy to be here with you.
Yeah, and we are matching. I'm loving that.
We're thinking alike, and we didn't even plan that.
I know. Anyway, for those of you that don't yet know Jen, she works as a career empowerment coach and also as a marketing consultant. So before we get into that, Jen, I'm just really curious to know more about your childhood. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Okay. I am the youngest of three daughters. So I have two older sisters. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we have a very close-knit family. We're still very close. I'm the only one who left Cincinnati. And I think that was actually a pivotal moment for me when I, as a young adult coming out of Miami of Ohio, is where I went to college, undergrad. I moved out of town, and that really allowed me to kind of create my own identity, because as you know, when we grow up in a family, we kind of have an identity within our family. And moving just allowed me to flourish into my own being. So, and plus they get a lot more excited to see me when I come home.
That's always a plus, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So what kind of lessons did you learn as you were growing up? Maybe some of the ones that, you felt good, and perhaps other ones that didn't serve you quite so well.
Yeah. I think, the biggest impact, I would say, from my childhood was growing up with a mom who was a Mary Kay consultant. So in the 1970s, I was actually in first grade when she decided to go into Mary Kay. She does not have her college degree. And what I witnessed from her, first of all, is a woman who stepped into her purpose and did that in serving others. She did a lot of serving through the church and the community, but this was really, she was empowering women. And I was always extremely, I didn't know it at the time when I was little, but I was influenced by that, and seeing how her success came from being truly serving and bringing out the best in other people. And I can actually considered Mary Kay. I dabbled in it here and there, but I always had more of a marketing and business background. My dream career was brand management, which I did for a long while, but I actually consider coaching to be my form of Mary Kay. So I feel like I've really learned and been inspired a lot by my mom, and I appreciate her for that. She's always been my biggest champion. And it's really awesome to be able to do what you love and have a positive impact on others. And I think that through her modeling, that was a value that I grew up with. So I'd say that was a real positive thing that I probably, it's sometimes those lessons you don't really get it until later in life. But it was being impressed upon me throughout my upbringing. And also just seeing in those days, it wasn't that long ago, but in those days, women didn't necessarily have the powerful roles that we have now in business. And so that idea of empowering people to strive for something more than what they thought they could have, that was also really motivating to me. Then in terms of kind of the other thing I've learned about myself over time is in growing up as the youngest child, my sisters definitely got into a little bit more trouble than I did. They might listen to this, so I'll have to be a little careful with what I say. But I think that there was our experiences as kids shape us for the good and for the bad and for whatever. But I think that I grew up really thinking more about consequences and making really well thought through decisions, because I was kind of witnessing drama that might have been happening because of my sisters doing typical teenage things, but getting in trouble. and me kind of observing that and making some different choices. So I don't know, I think that's just kind of shaped me a bit. And so I've always wanted to I think I've probably always been a little bit more planning and thoughtful in my decisions in life. And I really do believe that the choices we make now are what create our best future. And so, yeah, it's a long-winded answer, but
it's a great answer. I think you're absolutely right. Were you challenged by anything then as a young girl?
say that, or was I changed by anything?
Challenged.
Well, I think I had some typical experiences that, one of the main experiences that happened to me that seems to stand out is right between 7th and 8th grade, we moved just about 5 minutes away. My mom was successful with her work and she got to buy her dream home. And because I was the youngest, my 2 sisters were gone already. My one was still there for a year, but it put me into a different school system. And my world got turned upside down because the girls in 8th grade were very mean to me. And I was surprised, I was suddenly rejected. And prior to that, I was just a normal kid. I didn't really think much about it. I wasn't like the super popular one, but we just all kind of accepted each other in the school I had been in before. So it really threw me for a loop. And I think it's really given me a whole lot of empathy for people who get ostracized for whatever reason. And I have 2 daughters, they're teenagers, and I've used this experience. They've heard me talk about this when they're facing social situations to say, to stand up for that person who feels left out, or to reach out, because, and I actually did a post on this recently, it only takes one person. It only takes one little thing to change for the tides to change. And for me, there was one girl, Jackie Mayer, still remember, one girl who decided to accept me, and then everything became okay. So I try to be that one person for other people. And it's just interesting, even as we think about job searching or dating or whatever it might be in life, it only takes meeting one right person to really change your whole trajectory. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I love that story. And I wonder if she's watching now. Wouldn't that be great?
I'll have to send it to her.
I know, Jen, that you've worked with some really big brands, household names, in fact.
Yes.
And I remember being influenced by Pepsi, Quaker Oats, and Heinz. Were you influenced by those brands as you were growing up before you worked with them?
Not necessarily. I think my passion for brands came when I was a marketing major at Miami, and I still remember taking a consumer behavior class. I was majoring in business and marketing, so I kind of knew I wanted that. But this consumer behavior class is what really got me interested. And I think that I always have had this interest in people and their stories. And so Cincinnati, Procter & Gamble is there, and I was able to be a part of a day down at P&G to learn about brand management. And I just put my sights on brand management at that time. It's not an easy career to jump right out of college into. So it took me a couple of steps along the way, which actually has been really helpful in me supporting others in their career strategy, because each of those steps along the way, starting with a sales position at Ralston Purina in South Bend, Indiana, to AC Nielsen marketing research in Chicago, to finally my first brand job as an assistant brand manager on Kibbles and Bits dog food back in the 90s. And that was for Heinz pet products. And I had such a passion for my brands, whatever brand I was working on. and this was before I had kids, because I used to think of my brands as like my babies. I put a lot of passion, and I just had so many wonderful experiences in those early days of my brand management career. I will say one of the things that is part of my story, that is part of why I do what I do today, is that as I climbed the ladder in brand management, which I always assumed was my dream, and I had actually achieved my dream of being a brand manager in Chicago. It was really exciting, on the Life cereal brand. As I climbed the ladder, the demands of that role changed. It became more of a general manager job. There are different skills required, and it became more challenging for me. And also, Quaker was bought by Pepsi. The culture was a little bit different. And I share a story on my website about being told at one point that in order to succeed at Pepsi, and this was by someone who was very senior in the organization, that in order to succeed here, I need to become more of a pit bull, and that right now I'm really more of a Labrador retriever. And I've never forgotten that, these little things that you remember in life. And I just thought, well, at the time, here's what I did. I took that story and allowed it to put me into a downward spiral. I took that story and thought, I'm not good enough. Something's wrong with me. I can't succeed here. Why was I successful in the past and now I'm struggling? It really rocked my world. Now I can look back and honestly say, like, yes, I'm a Labrador, and I love that about myself. I don't want to be a pit bull. And this is just a misfit situation. At some point, as the culture changed, as the skill set changed, I was not the best fit for that role anymore. Of course, when you're in the midst of it, you're full of emotion. But looking back, I can say that I have reconciled with that conversation to say, honestly, if I had thought about it differently, he was really doing me a favor by letting me know this is what it will take. And I had the choice to be confident in myself and say, okay, then this is no longer the right place for me. I could do that now. I wish I had had a coach back then. So that's honestly part of why I'm so passionate about helping women, especially professional women, find the career and the role that is really tapping into their true unique skills and gifts, that's going to bring them success, because it's who they are, it's who they were designed to be, and it's going to bring them so much more joy. So I have found that by making my way into becoming a career empowerment coach. And I'm extremely passionate about helping others, mostly women, I've helped a few men as well, find that for themselves, because we all spend too much time working to not love what we do and to feel like we're doing what we were meant to do. We don't love every moment of every day. Even in my coaching job, there are things I need to do that aren't my favorite things to do, but I know that I am doing what I was put here to do. And that's the biggest gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just curious now, has the Labrador in you changed in any way since that, that remark was thrown at you?
I feel like I've embraced it more. I've learned how to actually leverage that that's who I am, and that certain people in certain situations really need a Labrador in their lives. I have a lab. We have a lab named Stanley. I think that it's embracing and actually loving who you are and being the best at that. And, it's making me think of one of the other things my mom said once I told her I was getting into coaching, and I have her recorded because I was recording this conversation, and she said, and she says this with such passion, if you have the ability to lift other women up, you have to do it. Wow. I hear her voice in my head. She's still alive. She does have dementia, and honestly, one of the best gifts I give her is talking to her about my coaching, because it brings her joy to know that I'm doing what I'm doing.
What an amazing mom. What an incredible
Yes.
role model. And I absolutely love that you talked about the fact that, you know, we need to be doing what's right for us and being ourselves and kind of being our best selves.
Yeah.
Why would someone, I mean, I know you've touched on it a little bit, Jen, but why do you think, in a nutshell, someone would need a career empowerment coach?
You know, it's interesting. Thank you for asking that question. I very intentionally put the word empowerment in there because there are many, many career coaches. And I do believe that it's very helpful for people to go find an outside set of eyes to look at your resume, to help you prepare for an interview, and those sorts of things that many career coaches do. I intentionally live in the world of empowerment because I mean, more than anything, I just want to encourage people to know they can do whatever it is they want to do. And often they just need a little guidance. You know, a lot of times they know they feel stuck. They might just be not challenged anymore. Their situation, what happened with me is I became more and more challenged, and I started second guessing myself a lot. Other women I work with are extremely confident. They're just bored. They're bored, you know, so there could be a lot of different reasons. But what I find as a 52-year-old is that decades fly by very quickly. And if we have someone else to work with who can give us some guidance, like where do I even start? If I, thought I might want to do something else, a lot of times people don't know what that is. Or if they do, they don't know how they would get from here to there. So what I do is work with women to provide a roadmap, the guidance, the support, the encouragement, and I'm also a huge proponent of community. So I have some groups that I bring together where people are on the same path. They're supporting each other. They're brainstorming together. They're helping each other. It thrills me when I can put out a success story, which I always love to do on LinkedIn, is, success stories of my clients. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing about having someone like you is that you're cheering that person on. You've got their back, and I think that is a huge thing. And obviously that accountability, which we can't do anything different if we don't have some accountability, can we?
Right.
So have you got any empowerment career advice, an empowering advice that you might give to someone watching who maybe they're bored, like you mentioned before, or they know something's missing, they're not quite sure what it is? Any suggestions?
A couple of things. I think and again, I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier about my personality growing up and always kind of thinking of the longer term of my decisions. I think it's important to allow yourself to dream about where you really wish if you could do anything you wanted and money was not an issue, what would that be? And maybe that's not your next move. But if you know what that is and what really lights you up and your reason, why is that what your dream is, really getting in touch with your why, and then knowing that that's, your future, something you would love to do, then it's like, how can I combine the skills I have, the experiences I have, the network I have to get myself there in some way. It might not look exactly the way you think. So for example, for me, I used to think, gosh, if I could just get paid to go visit beautiful spas and resorts around the world, okay, yes, that's a dream. Well, guess what? I'm making that happen because now I'm running my first retreat where I'm getting paid by women to guide them on a retreat at my favorite resort. So yes, you can make it happen. It doesn't always look the way you think. And so it's thinking those couple steps ahead. And then what are the, short-term, like, how do I get there? How do I create a roadmap to say, okay, what's maybe one small pivot I could make? Maybe it's, I'm still doing marketing, but instead of for this, consumer packaged goods company, I'm now doing it for the entertainment industry. And that's getting me into a new whole set of networking individuals, a whole new set of experiences. So you pick up those skills along the way that are getting you closer to the dream, and believe that you can get there.
Wonderful. Obviously, I'm going to put all your links, Jen, below this interview so people can go and check you out and presumably find out about the retreat as well.
Yes, thank you.
You've obviously done some extraordinary things in your life. Of all the things that you've done, though, what are you most proud of?
Oh my gosh. I'm really proud of what I'm building right now, honestly. When COVID hit, I have been doing my marketing consulting, which, basically when I left corporate, I took the skills I had built in corporate and started freelancing and doing that on my own. And I was able to choose the part I loved the most. But I think I'm most proud of myself for actually taking action on this lifelong thought about becoming a coach. Earlier in my career, I think that I was a corporate, in my comfort zone kind of person. I would have imagined myself in corporate my whole career. And the idea of drastically changing, and again, as I said, I always believed that brand management was like my dream. So allowing myself to actually take action, and I was 49 when I went back and for my coaching certification. So it's stepping into this work that I do now that 10 years ago when I was in corporate, I wouldn't have thought that I could make this big of a pivot. And now I'm helping others make their pivots. And sometimes I just want to be clear too, in terms of the career empowerment, it doesn't always mean that someone's switching careers or even companies. I always encourage my clients to first start with, how could you get more joy, be more in your zone of genius in your current company or in your current industry? We don't always have to make these huge pivots. Sometimes it's just becoming aware of what would make us happier and then speaking that to our boss, to our manager, to let them know what we want more of. So, but for me, I'd say that's probably what I'm most proud of, is just becoming the coach that I feel like I've always wanted and been meant to be.
Amazing. I love that. Really, that story demonstrates that you are walking your talk. And that phrase, zone of genius, is such a well-used phrase now, isn't it? And there might be some people that haven't heard it. It's probably quite obvious what it means, but how would you define it?
Sure. So first of all, it is, to give credit, it's from the book, The Big Leap. And when I first heard it, to me, it sums up a lot of what I have been feeling, is that when you are when you're working using your true gifts and talents, that's when you are fearless. When I was, back when I was in my marketing role and I would be moderating focus groups, I always felt like when I'm in that room with those consumers, I am not stressed. I have no fear, because I was in my zone of genius when I was in there. I was doing exactly what comes so naturally to me that I would do it all day long. So zone of genius is where the work that you're doing is so natural and fulfilling that you lose track of time. You might even be willing to do it for free because it's just something that lights you up. And the thing that I want to say, Julie, is that a lot of people, especially women, take their zone of genius for granted. They underestimate or undervalue their zone of genius, and it's just human, because we think if I'm good at it, surely everyone else is too. If it comes easy to me, it must come easy to everyone. And that's not at all true. So it's getting clear with what your zone of genius is, embracing it, knowing that it's special, and finding a career that has as much of that in it as possible. Not every single moment of every day is going to be living in your zone of genius, but the more you can do that, the more successful and the happier you'll be.
Brilliant. And everyone has a zone of genius, no matter who they are, no matter who you are watching.
Yes. Yes.
One final question, Jen. When you're no longer on this planet, how would you like to be remembered?
Ooh, that's a doozy one. Well, and I'm going to say this, it hopefully will relate not only to all the things we've been talking about today in terms of empowering women, but also for my children, my daughters. I want to be remembered as a person who listened carefully and always encouraged the best and helped bring out the best in others. And I think being a role model for that same thing, you know, showing up in my best way and encouraging others and bringing others along with me, so that together, like I said, I love community, like together we're all at creating our best futures. So
beautiful. It's been so great talking to you.
You too. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that we got connected.
Pleasure. Jane Spenauer, thank you so very much.
Thank you.